Alright, welcome back, Gadgeteers. As promised, we're going to talk about the Yoga 920 and the experience I had with Fedora 28. So the first thing I want to talk about is what happened when I was experimenting with other Linux distributions being installed to a USB on the Yoga 920, and number two, I want to talk about how things are going with Fedora 28 on the Yoga 920. As you will recall, I did a video that said Fedora 28 was not ready for Primetime yet, so if you do want to check that video out before you watch this one, it may help you. So topic number one. So I have this Yoga 920 and I was having problems with Kdenlive opening up project templates that I had created, which is fairly critical. I really need to be able to open those templates to get myself started when I'm making videos. So what I decided to do was experiment with installing different flavors of Linux to a USB drive, then booting from the USB drive so I could check and see if the problem was recurring with that particular version of Kdenlive, which happened to be 17.12.3. So I had Fedora 28 on there. I was able to try Fedora 27 booting to a USB drive to see if I would continue to have the same problem, and I actually did. So there's no rhyme or reason why version 17.12.3 and Fedora 27 are working so well on my desktop system. It could be that it's different hardware, which I kind of suspect. But anyway, those Kdenlive 17.12.3 and Fedora 27 work just fine on my desktop. Now I froze updates once I started having a problem because I only had one system to edit with. Then I decided, why not try Linux Mint? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I really want to find out if it's possible that it's a problem with the particular distro of Linux. So I installed Linux Mint 18 to a little USB thumb drive plugged into my Yoga 920. And lo and behold, I rebooted, and yes, it worked perfectly fine. I was able to boot into Linux Mint, install Kdenlive right to that 32 gigabyte USB 3.0 drive that I had plugged in, and experiment all I wanted to. The problem came when I pulled out the USB drive and tried to boot back into Fedora. Unfortunately, on the SSD, Linux Mint actually wrote its boot partition over the boot partition that I had set up for Fedora 28. I was hoping that it would just write its boot partition to the USB thumb drive just like it did with Fedora, but it didn't. So it took me some time. I was never able to get Fedora 28 to boot up again. So I had a couple of different problems. One, I was using logical volume management, and I tried many fixes to repair my LVG, the logical volume group, and get things working again, but unfortunately I wasn't successful. Not that it was a big deal, because I really didn't have anything on there that was vital. I was able to go ahead and just blow it away and reinstall Fedora 28. But one thing I did learn, which is very cool, from Linux Mint is the use of Flatpaks, and I know it's been around for a while and many of you have used Flatpaks to install different programs onto your Linux system. Well, Fedora also supports Flatpaks. However, what I did decide to do was go ahead and enable FlatHub on my newly reinstalled Fedora 28 on my Yoga 920. And with that, I was able to download from FlatHub the latest version of Kdenlive, version 18.04.2. And lo and behold, that version, as you could expect, does not have the same problem as the older 17.12.3. So I was able to open up all of my old projects, all the templates I created, and all the goodies I had. The only thing I have to be careful of is if I work on a project on my desktop and I decide to move it over or move a template over to my Yoga 920, of course, it will update the project file to version 18.04.2. Not really a big deal. At some point, shortly here, I'm going to go ahead and update my desktop to Fedora 28, and I'll use a Flatpak and install 18.04.2 of Kdenlive, and I'll be okay. Which brings me to the second topic. How is Fedora 28 doing on my Yoga 920, and is it ready for Primetime? The answer to that is yes, absolutely. With the updates, I have not had any problems anymore with Fedora 28. In my previous video, I did outline about 7 or so issues that I was having. Those seem to have gone away, and it's working just fine. The biggest one, of course, was using the Flatpak of Kdenlive to get 18.04.2, and I'm able to edit on both my Yoga 920 as well as my desktop system, and I can switch back and forth if needed, which is exactly what I wanted. I've always had this concept in my mind that I should have a primary system and a backup system. So, as you know from several of my videos, especially about the MacBook Pro, I'm going to be selling that, and I'm whittling down my collection. I've already sold my Yoga 910, so I want to get it down to the point where I only have 2 machines. Now I've got an ultimate third level backup back here, which is running Linux Mint 18.04 on my AMD Phenom 2 X6, which is a 6-core machine. And I'm thinking at some point I'll probably be getting an SSD for it, which will, I think, boost the speed fairly decent for rendering videos. So I really have 3 backups if my laptop doesn't work and my main desktop doesn't work, so I'm not too worried now. And as far as data goes, I actually back up all my data to an internal 4 terabyte drive, and then I have an external 4 terabyte drive as well, because aside from the final edit video files that you see, I really don't have any other copies of my raw footage that I collect, so I keep that on the 4 terabyte internal and the 4 terabyte external so that I can use it. So if I go traveling or whatever, I have that 4 terabyte external drive, and I can just plug it into any system and be editing and still have all my source footage if I want to use something else from all that raw footage. So to wrap it up, I'm really happy with the outcome with Fedora 28 and getting things working again on my Yoga 920. I learned a lesson by trying to install to a USB drive. With Fedora, it will work, different flavors of Fedora, but not so with Linux Mint. I also learned more about Flatpaks using Linux Mint, which is awesome, and I also learned that Flatpaks are available in Fedora 28. So I just enabled FlatHub, downloaded the Flatpak, and I was back in business. Now I am coming out with a Fedora 28 installation guide, or things that I do after I install Fedora 28. I have not released that yet. I want to wrap it up, and it will probably be a living work because as I'm working in Fedora, I say, oh yeah, there's one other thing I want to do, and oh yeah, there's one more thing I want to do. So shortly on FastGadgets.info, I will release that particular how-to document, and you can have a look at it if you want. I'll have a link down below in the video if it's done. If it's not, check me out on Twitter at FastGadgetsTech, and I will of course release the URL for the document there so you can see it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. If not, well, you can dislike it if you want. It seems to happen every video, and I'm okay with that because certainly I'm not perfect. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on Fast Gadgets.
This video was made possible with support from viewers like you. If you find this video useful, consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/FastGadgets.